Human beings are creatures of contradiction. We are simultaneously fragile and formidable, grounded in the earth, yet reaching for the heavens, and at the heart of this tension lies an ancient struggle, the confrontation between the individual and the transcendent, between the finite self and the infinite order of being. This is the essence of what it means to wrestle with God. When the biblical text describes Jacob wrestling with God in the dark of night, it presents not only a story of physical struggle, but also a metaphor for the human condition itself. To live is to wrestle with suffering, with uncertainty, with the chaos that surrounds and inhabits us. It is to wrestle with the very conditions of existence and with the material source of that existence, what we might call God. In the modern world, the temptation is to dismiss these stories as primitive myths, as archaic projections of a pre-scientific age. But that is a mistake. These narratives contain within them the distilled wisdom of millennia, the archetypal structures that still govern our psychology. Myths are not merely stories, they are the operating system of human consciousness. To discard them is to discard the very maps by which our ancestors navigated chaos. So why do we wrestle? Because life is suffering. That's not pessimism, that's realism. Suffering is baked into the structure of existence itself. To be self-conscious is to know that one is vulnerable. To be finite is to recognize the inevitability of death. But suffering alone is not the end of the story. The question is, can suffering be transfigured into meaning? Can the encounter with chaos be transformed into order? That is what these biblical accounts explore. This reflection will follow the foundational narratives of Genesis and Exodus, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah, Babel, Abraham, and Moses. Each story is not merely a record of ancient events, but a mirror held up to the human soul. Each is a dramatization of our struggles with temptation, envy, pride, despair, and the eternal call toward transcendence. The task before us is not easy. To read these stories in earnest is to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, our cowardice, our resentment, our arrogance, but it is also to encounter the possibility of transformation. If we wrestle honestly, as Jacob did, perhaps we too can receive a blessing. Perhaps, in the process of grappling with God, we can become something more than what we are. The story of Adam and Eve is not about two naked people eating literal fruit in a literal garden, at least not primarily. It is about something far more profound, the moment when human beings became aware of themselves. It is the archetypal drama of awakening, the recognition of vulnerability, and the painful cost of consciousness. The Garden of Eden represents a state of unconscious innocence. In psychological terms, it is childhood, a time when the child is protected, when the full weight of suffering has not yet descended. But innocence, while blissful, is not sustainable. You cannot remain a child forever. To grow is to awaken, and awakening means the knowledge of good and evil, and with it, the recognition of mortality. In mythological language, the serpent tempts Eve, and through her, Adam. In psychological terms, the serpent represents the intrusion of chaos into order, the eternal possibility of disruption. every garden has a serpent. To exist is to be vulnerable to temptation, to error, to corruption. What happens the moment Adam and Eve eat the fruit? Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. Notice that the immediate consequence of knowledge is not triumph, but shame. With self-consciousness comes the realization of one's fragility. Nakedness is not merely physical exposure, it is symbolic exposure, the awareness that one can be hurt, rejected, humiliated. Here we find the root of anxiety itself. To be human is to know that one is insufficient, to know that one is seen, and in being seen, one is judged. This is why shame is such a powerful and universal emotion. It is the shadow side of consciousness. Children play without shame until they realize they are being watched. Adolescents wrestle with self-consciousness, obsessing over appearance, status, belonging. Adults, though more practiced, are never free from it. The story of Eden reveals that shame is not a cultural invention. It is a structural consequence of self-awareness itself. Confronted with their nakedness, Adam and Eve attempt to cover themselves. They sew fig leaves together, fashioning the first clothing. This gesture is profoundly symbolic. It is the attempt to conceal vulnerability, to deny reality rather than face it. And when God asks them what they have done, what do? They pass the blame. Adam blames Eve, Eve blames the serpent. This is the first evasion of responsibility in human history. Responsibility is terrifying. To say, I have erred, is to expose oneself even further, to admit weakness voluntarily. And yet, paradoxically, it is the only path forward. By refusing responsibility, Adam and Eve deepen their alienation. By accepting responsibility, we make possible the redemption of error. The consequence of the fall is exile. Adam and Eve are cast out of Eden, condemned to toil, pain, and death. At first glance, this seems like divine punishment, but perhaps it is better understood as an archetypal truth. Once self-consciousness arises, innocence cannot be regained. Once you know that you are naked, you cannot return to unconscious bliss. This is why nostalgia is always a lie. We imagine that there was once a golden age, a time when things were simpler, purer, better. But even if such a state existed, it is irretrievable. History only moves forward. Childhood cannot be re-entered. The only way out is through responsibility, through suffering, through the integration of knowledge into wisdom. With exile comes work. Adam must till the soil, Eve must endure the pains of childbirth. In symbolic terms, this means that consciousness carries with it the burden of culture. To survive, human beings must build, labor, and cooperate. But culture itself is fraught with tension. It sustains life, but it also restricts. This is the human predicament. We are no longer animals, guided solely by instinct. We are self-conscious beings, caught between nature and spirit, condemned to freedom, as Sartre would say. We must choose, and every choice entails risk. We must work, and every work entails suffering. This is not a curse to be resented, but a reality to be confronted. For in bearing this burden voluntarily, we may transform exile into pilgrimage. We may turn the desert into a path. Consciousness allows for creativity, morality, and transcendence, but it also brings shame, anxiety, and the inevitability of death into awareness. To be conscious is to know one's vulnerability. Shame is not pathology, but part of the structural human condition. Responsibility is redemption. Blame is easy but sterile. Ownership of error is the only path to transformation. Exile is necessary. Innocence must be lost if maturity is to be gained. The path of growth is not a return to Eden, but the creation of a new order in the wilderness. What does this mean for us, here and now? Well, it means that each of us lives perpetually east of Eden. Each of us carries shame, fear, and vulnerability. Each of us is tempted to hide, to blame, to retreat into bitterness. But the challenge is to stand up straight with your shoulders back, to accept the burden of suffering voluntarily, to speak the truth even when shame beckons you into silence, to take responsibility for your own nakedness, and by doing so, to clothe yourself not in fig leaves, but in integrity. That is the tragic but redemptive lesson of Adam and Eve. Consciousness is suffering, but it is also the precondition of meaning. Exile is real, but it can become a journey. And shame, when confronted with courage, can be transfigured into dignity. After exile from Eden, the narrative of Genesis shifts from Adam and Eve to their children, Cain and Abel. Here we encounter the very first human family, and with it the first murder. What a remarkable statement. The biblical text is suggesting that as soon as human life unfolds, envy and violence are present at its heart. Brotherhood, that which ought to be a bond of loyalty, is poisoned by rivalry. Cain, the elder, is a tiller of the soil. Abel, the younger, is a keeper of sheep. Each brings an offering to God. Abel's is accepted, Cain's is not. Already the seeds of resentment are planted. Why should Abel's gift be favored? Why should Cain, who labored, sweat, and suffered in the fields, not receive the same blessing? The tension explodes into violence. Cain slays his brother in the field. This, at one level, is a simple story of jealousy. But at another, it is the archetype of human resentment, the story of what happens when failure is confronted, not with responsibility, but with bitterness. Before we can grasp Cain's failure, we need to understand the meaning of sacrifice. Why do Abel's offerings please God, while Cain's do not? Sacrifice, psychologically, is the recognition of the future. It is the ability to give up something now for something better later. The farmer who stores seed instead of eating it demonstrates this principle. The student who studies late into the night instead of seeking immediate pleasure understands it intuitively. Sacrifice is the mechanism by which chaos is converted into order and survival into flourishing. But sacrifice is not only practical, it is also symbolic. The quality of one's offering reflects the quality of one's character. Abel gives the firstlings of his flock the best he has. Cain, we are led to believe, withholds. His sacrifice is begrudging, half-hearted. God does not reward this kind of offering because reality itself does not reward it. Life punishes the dishonest bargain. Cain's rejection, then, is not arbitrary divine cruelty. It is a reflection of the structure of reality. If you bring forth a half-hearted sacrifice, if you fail to commit, the world will not bless you. What is Cain's response to rejection? He grows angry, his countenance fell. Here we see the birth of resentment, that corrosive spirit that transforms failure into hatred. Cain had a choice. He could have asked, "What did I do wrong? How can I improve? What can I learn from Abel?" This is the path of responsibility, the path of self-transcendence. But Cain chooses instead to blame. He directs his anger outward, toward Abel, toward God, toward the unfairness of reality itself. This is the psychology of victimhood, the refusal to look inward, the refusal to grow. We know this pattern all too well. The underachieving student who resents the diligent peer, the failed artist who despises the successful one, the embittered man who curses fate instead of confronting his own weakness. This is Cain. Resentment festers. It does not remain contained. It seeks expression, and its final form is destruction. Cain invites Abel into the field, and there he slays him. Notice the psychological brilliance of this. Cain cannot strike God, so he strikes the one who is favored by God. This is scapegoating in its primal form. Instead of confronting the inadequacy of his own offering, Cain obliterates the symbol of success. This is why resentment is so dangerous. It is not merely an emotion, it is a philosophy. It whispers, "If I cannot rise, I will pull others down. If I cannot bear responsibility, I will destroy the one who reminds me of it." We see this in schoolyard bullying, where strength targets vulnerability. We see it in political ideologies that scapegoat entire groups for personal failure. We see it in the atrocities of the 20th century, when resentment-fueled movements turned envy into mass murder. Cain is not merely an ancient figure, he is alive in every act of bitterness that seeks revenge instead of transformation. It is worth noting that God actually warns Cain before the murder. "Why are you angry? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it." This is extraordinary. The text acknowledges the reality of Cain's suffering. Yes, rejection is painful. Yes, envy is natural. But the warning is clear. Resentment is a predator. It crouches like a beast, waiting to devour. You must master it, or it will master you. Cain refuses. And in refusing, he inaugurates the tragedy of human history. After the murder, Cain is confronted. "Where is your brother?" God asks. Cain replies with one of the most chilling questions in all of literature. Am I my brother's keeper? Here the text drives home the moral point. Yes, you are. Responsibility for the other is not optional. It is the essence of morality itself. To deny this is to descend into hell. And yet, even after his crime, Cain is not utterly destroyed. He is marked, not killed. The mark of Cain is a paradox, both punishment and protection. He becomes a wanderer, alienated from the ground he once tilled. His very existence becomes a testimony to the cost of resentment. Sacrifice must be wholehearted. To offer less than your best is to cheat yourself and reality. Partial effort breeds failure, which in turn breeds resentment. Resentment is a philosophy, not just a feeling. It externalizes blame and scapegoats others. It transforms disappointment into hatred. Violence is the endgame of unmastered resentment. Whether personal or political, resentment culminates in destruction. Responsibility is the antidote. To master sin at the door is to take ownership of failure. To ask, what can I do differently, is to rise above Cain's fate. What does Cain teach us today? That each of us faces rejection. Each of us knows what it is to fail, to be passed over, to see another succeed where we did not. The question is, how do we respond? Do we grow bitter, blaming fate and despising the successful? Or do we look inward, improve our sacrifices, and master the beast of resentment crouching at the door? The Petersonian challenge is stark. If you allow resentment to govern you, you will become Cain. If you take responsibility, you will transcend failure. The choice is not abstract. It is daily, moment by moment. Will you destroy your Abel, or will you learn from him? Will you curse reality, or will you improve your sacrifice? That is the eternal question. The Cain and Abel narrative culminates in violence, but the story doesn't stop there. In the chapters that follow, humanity as a whole descends further into corruption. Genesis describes the earth as filled with violence. This is not mere physical violence, but a collapse of moral order. When human beings give themselves over to resentment, envy, and pride, society begins to fracture. Trust erodes, relationships disintegrate, violence spreads like a contagion. The biblical text portrays this as so pervasive that God regrets creating humanity. This is not psychologically a naive myth. It is a profound insight into how unchecked corruption cascades until institutions fail, cultures collapse, and renewal becomes unavoidable. Enter Noah. In the midst of corruption, Noah is described as righteous, not perfect, but aligned with what is good. He becomes the instrument of preservation. Through him, life is carried through destruction into renewal. The flood, then, is both literal and archetypal. On one level, it is a mythic natural disaster. On another, it represents the inevitable collapse that follows corruption. When lies, resentment, and violence dominate, catastrophe is not optional. It is guaranteed. We know this pattern historically. The great totalitarian states of the 20th century were Cain's multiplied 1,000-fold. and the result was catastrophic. Blood and chaos swept the globe. Whole nations drowned. Only those aligned with truth, individuals who refused to bow to corruption, survived spiritually intact. The flood is history's way of telling us when corruption reaches a tipping point, reality itself rebels. Noah's Ark is more than a survival vessel. It is a symbol of ordered being. It is a constructed sanctuary, built with foresight and discipline to withstand chaos. Think of what the Ark represents psychologically, the structures we build to weather life's inevitable storms. For some, it is a strong marriage grounded in honesty. For others, it is a disciplined routine, a life of responsibility and sacrifice. For a culture, it is the rule of law, the preservation of tradition, the scaffolding that prevents descent into anarchy. The Ark is not built during the flood, it is built before. That is the lesson. Prepare in advance. Confront chaos while the sun still shines. Sacrifice now, so that when catastrophe comes, and it will, you are not swept away. Why does Noah build? Because he listens. The biblical story emphasizes obedience. Noah does all that God commanded. This is not blind submission. It is the recognition that reality has structure, that wisdom lies in aligning with it, even when it seems unnecessary. People mock Noah for building, but wisdom often looks like foolishness in the short term. The disciplined student, the cautious saver, the morally upright, they may appear naive until catastrophe arrives. Then suddenly, they are the only ones standing. This is Peterson's principle of build the ark. Do not wait until chaos overwhelms you. Adopt responsibility. Discipline your habits. Speak the truth. For when the flood comes, your past preparation will be the difference between survival and destruction. The narrative of the flood concludes with a subtle but powerful image. Noah sends out a raven, then a dove, to find dry land. The raven circles endlessly. The dove returns with an olive leaf. What does this symbolize? The raven is the scavenger, feeding on corpses, circling without resolution. It represents despair, the spirit that cannot move beyond catastrophe. The dove, by contrast, is the spirit of hope. It returns with a sign of renewal, the promise that life continues. After catastrophe, we too face a choice. Will we circle endlessly in bitterness, like the raven, feeding on the corpses of our grievances? Or will we search for the olive branch, the symbol of renewal, the courage to begin again? Corruption invites catastrophe. When resentment, violence, and dishonesty dominate, collapse is inevitable. This applies to individuals, families, nations. Preparation must precede chaos. Build your ark now, through discipline, sacrifice, and alignment with truth. Catastrophe cannot be avoided, but survival can be prepared for. Hope is essential after disaster. To live like the raven is to stay trapped in death. To live like the dove is to believe in new beginnings. Noah's story asks a question of us all. Are we building arks, or are we ignoring the flood? Are we living lives of sacrifice and discipline, or are we indulging in the corruption that guarantees collapse? Peterson often says, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. That is Noah's lesson. Build the ark of your life. Put your relationships in order. Tell the truth. Take on responsibility. For catastrophe will come. The waters will rise. And the only question is whether your ark will hold. After the chaos of the flood and the scattering of Babel, the story of Abraham begins. Humanity has witnessed corruption, catastrophe, and the futility of arrogance. Now, the narrative pivots to a single man. Abram, later renamed Abraham, called out of his homeland into an unknown future. This is one of the most profound archetypes in the entire biblical tradition. It is the call to step into the unknown, to heed a voice that transcends safety, and to reorder one's life around meaning rather than comfort. Abraham's story is not the tale of a perfect man. He doubts, he falters, he struggles, and yet he responds to the call. He leaves behind security and begins a journey toward becoming the father of nations. From a psychological perspective, Abraham's call is universal. Every person eventually hears it in some form. It is the call to grow up, to stop clinging to the security of childhood, to move out from the familiar into the frightening. Peterson often frames this as the confrontation with chaos. You cannot stay in the garden forever. You cannot remain in stasis. Life will call you out, and the question is, will you listen? The Abrahamic story is the archetypal representation of this existential moment. Leave your homeland. Step into the unknown. Orient towards something higher than immediate gratification. Abraham is given a promise, descendants as numerous as the stars. But this promise is delayed, deferred, and, seemingly contradicted by circumstances. His wife Sarah is barren. Years pass, hope dims. This is the testing ground of faith. Abraham's story demonstrates that meaning is not given instantly. It requires waiting, enduring, sacrificing, and then comes the ultimate test, the command to sacrifice Isaac, the very embodiment of the promise. This moment has haunted theologians and philosophers for centuries. Kierkegaard famously called it the teleological suspension of the ethical, a paradox in which faith demands the abandonment of rational morality. For Peterson, the story represents the demand to place one's highest value above all else, even above what one loves most. Isaac is not just a child. He is Abraham's future, his hope, his very meaning. To lift the knife is to surrender the illusion of ownership, to place trust entirely in the transcendent. Psychologically, this is the recognition that what we love most is not truly ours. Life can take it from us. We must learn to live as if our deepest commitments belong not to us, but to something higher. Only then can they be properly ordered. Faith, in this sense, is not naive belief. It is courageous orientation. It is the willingness to step into the unknown and to sacrifice what you cling to most dearly, trusting that meaning is deeper than possession. Peterson often says, faith is the courage to act as if being is good, despite its suffering and tragedy. That is Abraham's stance. He does not know the outcome. He does not understand the command, yet he steps forward. Abraham is also given covenant, a binding agreement with God. This covenant is not just a promise of blessing, it is a responsibility. Abraham is to walk blamelessly, to raise his descendants in righteousness, to embody fidelity to the transcendent. Covenant, then, is not a contract of entitlement, it is a structure of responsibility. To live under covenant is to shoulder the weight of meaning, not just for oneself, but for one's community, for one's future lineage. Meaning is found in responsibility, not in pleasure. Abraham's covenant embodies this principle on, really, the largest scale imaginable. What does Abraham teach the modern reader? That we must leave behind comfort and step into the unknown. That meaning requires sacrifice, even of what we love most. That faith is not certainty, but courageous trust in the goodness of being. That covenant, responsibility, is the highest form of freedom. To live like Abraham is to orient one's life towards something transcendent, even if it costs everything. Peterson might put it this way: Abraham is the man who acts out the truth that responsibility is salvation. He leaves comfort, accepts hardship, shoulders responsibility, and offers even his beloved son when asked, and in doing so, he becomes the father of nations. The story tells us, if you align yourself with what is highest, if you carry your burden faithfully, if you sacrifice what you love most to something beyond yourself, then your life will bear fruit beyond your comprehension. That is the covenant. That is the call. That is faith. The story of Moses and the Exodus is one of the most powerful myths of human culture. It's the archetype of liberation, the movement from bondage into freedom. But, it's not a simple escape story. It's really about how freedom is achieved, sustained, and ordered. Peterson frequently emphasizes that we are all enslaved to something: addictions, ideologies, fears, or even comforts. The Exodus story is the symbolic representation of breaking free, but with the recognition that freedom requires responsibility, discipline, and law. Otherwise, it just collapses back into chaos. Egypt represents slavery, but it's more than physical bondage. It's the psychological state of being trapped in patterns that destroy the soul. Think of the addict chained to the bottle, the worker stuck in meaningless drudgery, or the fearful man who refuses to confront life's challenges. Each is a form of slavery. Egypt is the archetypal image of that imprisonment. Psychologically, Pharaoh is the tyrant within. The part of the psyche that clings to power, refuses to let go, and drives you deeper into bondage. Moses, like Abraham, is called out of obscurity. He is not a likely hero. He stutters, he doubts himself, he resists the call. But that's precisely the point. Leadership is not granted to the perfect, but to the willing. The burning bush is the archetypal moment of encounter with the transcendent. It's the realization that one's life is not merely one's own. There is a call to responsibility that transcends fear. Moses accepts, reluctantly, hesitantly, but he accepts. This is the first step in liberation, to accept the responsibility of answering the call. The plagues that strike Egypt symbolize the collapse of tyrannical structures. Pharaoh clings to power, but reality itself rebels against him. On a psychological level, this is the destruction of false idols. When you refuse to let go of what enslaves you, chaos strikes. Denial compounds suffering. The plagues are the representation of reality itself insisting that bondage cannot last. Every individual who has broken free from addiction, abuse, or despair knows this. Life will plague you until you release your Pharaoh. Freedom is not achieved without risk. The Red Sea symbolizes the confrontation with chaos. To leave slavery, you must pass through danger, uncertainty, and fear. Psychologically, this is the leap into the unknown. You cannot cling to the safety of Egypt. You must risk drowning in chaos to step into freedom. And you know, the waters only part when the people move forward. Faith precedes miracle. Action precedes resolution. Many think freedom is easy, but the wilderness story destroys that illusion. Once liberated, the Israelites grumble. They long for Egypt again. Why? Because slavery, for all its horror, at least offered certainty. Freedom is frightening. It demands responsibility, discipline, and courage. Peterson often stresses this. Freedom without responsibility is unbearable. It collapses into chaos. The wilderness is the testing ground where freedom is shaped into responsibility. At Sinai, Moses receives the Ten Commandments. This is the moment where freedom is structured into order. Law is not tyranny when it emerges from covenant. It is the framework that allows freedom to flourish without degenerating into chaos. Psychologically, law represents self-discipline. You cannot live meaningfully if you are enslaved by impulse. The commandments are archetypal representations of the structures that make life possible. But the people fail. While Moses is on the mountain, they build a golden calf. They replace transcendent order with material idolatry. This is a timeless warning. Human beings are always tempted to substitute shallow idols for transcendent meaning, money, fame, pleasure. These are the golden calves of modernity. Peterson's commentary here is sharp. When you abandon responsibility and covenant, you inevitably fall into idolatry. And idolatry always destroys. Moses stands as mediator between God and the people. He carries the burden of leadership, often at great personal cost. He intercedes, pleads, leads, disciplines. This is the archetype of the leader, one who shoulders responsibility for the community, even when it breaks him. Leadership is not privilege, it is sacrifice. Moses never enters the promised land. He leads his people to its edge, but dies before entering. Psychologically, this speaks to the incompleteness of every individual journey. None of us sees the full fruit of our labor. Meaning is not in arrival, but in faithfulness to the journey. Peterson often reminds us, life is tragedy. You will not complete what you begin, but you must begin anyway. That is the heroic path. The Exodus story speaks directly to modern life. We are enslaved by fears, addictions, and ideologies. Liberation requires responsibility, risk, and courage. Freedom without law collapses into chaos. Idolatry is always waiting to ensnare us. Leadership is bearing responsibility, not wielding privilege. Meaning is found not in arriving, but in faithfully journeying. Moses embodies the archetype of the leader who accepts responsibility despite inadequacy. He hears the call, confronts tyranny, leads through chaos, bears the burden of law, and sacrifices himself for the people. Peterson would say, this is the path each of us must take. Confront your Pharaoh, step into the Red Sea, bear the wilderness, accept the law, resist the golden calf, carry your people forward, even if you never see the promised land. That is Exodus, that is responsibility, that is freedom. The title itself, He Who Wrestles With God, captures the permanent condition of human life. Wrestling implies struggle, tension, uncertainty, and resistance. But it also implies engagement. To wrestle with God is to engage the deepest truths of existence. Suffering, chaos, order, love, death, and transcendence. It is the most demanding path, but it is also the only path that dignifies the human condition. Peterson would say, pick up your burden, face what terrifies you, wrestle with it, night after night. And on that note, sending lots of love to you. Until next time.